we've heard that you've received one of the highest belonging scores at Airbnb. And that makes me wonder about like the tension between business impact and belonging. And so my immediate reaction is like, whoa, what? And how? Like that seems like the magical thing to want to create for the people that you work with. And so just to open this up, like, can you tell us a little bit about that experience and what that means? And I think we're going to spend a lot of time deconstructing all of the elements that go into something like that. So take us away.
I have had a interesting, very versatile career that's taken me in a lot of different places. But really, the underpinning of every role that I've had has been really grounded in connecting and belonging. And that stems from, frankly, how I grew up. I grew up raised by a single parent mom. I was an only child, and I grew up in upstate New York in a small town that, frankly, was not very diverse. My mother is Italian and Irish, and I have a very mixed background, Black, Hispanic, and my father was never in the picture. So I felt different growing up. I never really felt like I could belong. And I found at a very early age, acutely, that for me to connect, for me to feel like I can belong, I wanted to engage, I wanted to reach out. I wanted to really build relationships and learn about people. If people could get past the surface of what they saw in me or could get past some of the things that made me feel different, then I just felt like that was a beautiful way to connect. So I gravitated towards a lot of sports and athletics. I gravitated towards performing arts and sang in the choir and was in musicals. But that was a way for me to crack that I guess feeling of not belonging and connecting. And I carry that with me to this day. I feel like any part of being a good leader has to be a bit of a coach, a bit of an amazing teammate. And if you can create that feeling of belonging within an organization, everything else can really go on autopilot. And that's how I've taken this role as the CIO at Airbnb. And when we think about belonging, we did have some very good scores in my organization. However, let me just talk a little bit about how we measure belonging at Airbnb.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yes, there's a very specific question. I'm sure, like all companies, have employee satisfaction surveys. And one of our key questions that we ask our people at Airbnb is, I feel like I belong at Airbnb. And, to the degree that you feel like you belong at Airbnb, you either score that high or low. And that was such an important question in a global pandemic, especially where we are all remote. Airbnb is still remote, has not opened our offices back up. So we wanted to really understand, how can we make people feel like they can belong even more? So we broke it down into three dimensions or three principles. And it's really about belonging and having an inclusive culture, belonging and building relationships, and belonging in the sense of your contributions being recognized and felt and heard. So when we measured all those dimensions, we decided that we had to put a full program around this together. I think our scores, yes, relatively higher across Airbnb. It's not because any other team is better or worse. It's because I felt in our organization specifically, we had to rise to the occasion to make the rest of Airbnb feel like they can belong. In a global pandemic where we're all remote, it is really hard to connect, and people felt isolated and lonely. And we in biz technology, my CIO organization, have that obligation, that responsibility to provide the technology, the tools, the collaboration, and really be that host to all of the Airbnb employees around the world. And how can I give that feeling to the rest of the Airbnb team if my own organization, who has to rise to the occasion in this virtual remote world, isn't feeling like they can belong for themselves? So we treated it as a very high priority, an equal priority with business results and outcomes. And we put together a huge amount of programming and projects around how we can belong. So I think that's the simple answer is a huge focus in setting an equal priority on belonging and engagement as those business results. And we just felt that it was imperative to really be that focused.
It makes you really think about like the business quote of like what gets measured gets managed. So not only making it a priority in terms of like measuring belonging equal to everything, but then also having a defined framework for the sort of quote unquote inputs you're looking for that help contribute and create to it.
Well, and I love that. I love that saying. I have a similar one that I use often, which is what's important gets measured, and what's measured gets done.
Yeah, there.
I'm really curious about in your role, providing the infrastructure to make it easier to create a sense of belonging in your company. Um, I'm curious, what are the tools or what are the more practical things that your company did and worked that that you believe other company can also borrow and do the same?
Great question. So, let me talk a little bit about the specific things that we put into our programming within my organization and things that were seeded and have now gone across Airbnb. In our programming, we decided to really focus on wellness. Wellness is such a key contributor to feeling like you can belong. I've been on my own journey for wellness, and we're bringing that to the rest of the organization. And because there's been people in loneliness and solitude, because we're remote, we've had to really break down and understand how we can focus more on wellness and how it contributes to belonging. And one of the things that we've done is just put together many, many, many things. I'm a big believer in think big, start small, experiment. And we have been having fun engaging all of our people in some of these activities. So, to give you some examples, we put out a wellness and remote work best practices memo just to start priming people that this is important. We've done yoga events, we've had mental health workshops around managing anxiety and stress. We've had coordinated wellness day offs across the company. We've had different tributes to recognize different people and what's important to them. Black History Month tributes, Women's History Month roundtables. We've tried a no meeting day where once a month on Fridays, there's no meetings. We do no meeting Wednesdays for certain parts of our organization. We use Slack quite a bit to keep in touch. And we will post in our social channels wellness themed activities. Did you go on a hike? Share that. Did something happen cool in your family? Share that. But really opening up and making sure people feel like they can share. We've done monthly one on one coffee chats. And this has been one of our biggest successes. Think of those times you miss when you're not in an office, you're all working remote. That water cooler time where you're just bumping into somebody. That was such a part of Airbnb's culture because we designed our offices to feel like home. So, a coffee chat is you sign up, you don't know who you're going to end up with, and you show up on a Zoom and there's a new person, and you literally just have a coffee chat with them. And we had no idea how big and impactful that would be, but it's gone off like a rocket ship. We do raffles when if you recognize another employee for their contributions, you get entered into a raffle. So we try to stimulate the right behavior and make sure people feel seen and appreciated. We have done newsletters around appreciations. We also had to do some fun things, like given the time of the year. I'm a big sports fan, so when it's college March Madness time, we decided to do a fun March Madness bracket challenge with our team. And then we've done other specific things that are really around skill building, right? Part of belonging and wellness is also developing yourself, growing yourself. So, in addition to collaboration and ways to connect people in this virtual remote world, this programming, which we called Lunch and Learns, is something that we do on a weekly basis. And some of the things we've done in these Lunch and Learn series have been a module we did called Stand Up and Be Heard, and it was a training series. We've done a Lunch and Learn series around a framework called Discovery Insights Profile, where you learn about your strengths and how you show up in a team environment and how to build on that collective energy.
A quick follow-up question on the skill building. So for those programs, is it team or employee led, or is it external facilitator coming in? Like, are these sort of self-generated programs, or is like a combination of both?
It's a mix because I feel like I want this constant loop of you said, we did. And when you open up to the organization, that willingness to listen and to understand and be curious about what they need, then it becomes a really powerful feedback loop. And we take in and engage our employees. If they have a great idea, we let them lead it. But we also augment that, we accentuate it with external experts on certain topics. Let me give a couple examples. Amy Edmondson came and did an amazing fireside chat with me on psychological safety, world renowned expert on psychological safety, and bringing that to our team because we heard psychological safety was something that was a deficit for many people. Another example is a framework called Native Genius, led by Kristen Wheeler, and she came in and facilitated a entire series of workshops around native genius. And the concept of native genius is we all have innate things, gifts that make us light up or glaze over. And tuning into that is very helpful to help people with their career conversations and navigating a lot of those conversations.